Hi, everybody. Welcome along to episode 145 of Percussion Discussion. Hope you're all well out there. As always, I'm going to ask you to please check out all of our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, our world famous YouTube channel, where you can find all of our conversations, past and present, with the video to accompany. Please subscribe. It only takes a second. It really helps grow the channel. And the good news is there's no adverts, so there's nothing to get in the way of your enjoyment and viewing pleasure. Never said that before. Good news is all of our conversations are available in podcast form. These are free to download from your favorite podcast provider. If you could rate and review, again, it helps grow the channel, helps like-minded drummers like us and enjoy us as much as you do. So if you could do that for me, I'd be very grateful. On to today's guest, something a little bit different. We've had comedians, we've had actors, we've had singers, we've had a bass player on, but never a former professional sportsman. And this gentleman was literally at the top of the tree with his sports career, arguably one of the finest goalkeepers we've ever known to play in the Premier League, a hugely successful and long career at Chelsea Football Club, as well as a great goalkeeper. He's also a mean drummer and a very, very keen drummer as well. He takes it very seriously. It gives me great pleasure to welcome the fabulous Mr. Petr Cech.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Well,
I've seen the company I'm now in, and I'm thrilled, I have to say.
Well, I like doing these, and some people will probably see your name and go, "What? You mean the guy who played for Chelsea and Arsenal and everything?" But you are a drummer, and it says so on your profiles. Goalkeeper, drummer.
Yeah, I'm a bad drummer, but I'm a drummer. Yes, that's correct.
Well, I've seen your YouTube channel. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. So, I've done quite a few of these now where I've spoken to people who perhaps aren't well known for playing drums, but they're well known for other things, but are drummers. And I find it interesting, and I hope other people do too. So, have you done any more interviews about playing drums before?
Yeah, I've done a couple as people have obviously figured out that I play drums sometimes. Some people might have seen me, and as well at some gigs and festivals. So so suddenly people realized, that I play drums. It happened a little bit by accident, I have to say, because playing, professional football, I never really had time, but I always had that passion for it. I always use my hands to tap on the table and keep the rhythms throughout any song. But as nobody in my family played an instrument, I was never really tempted to take on the instrument or take the lesson. And I was purely concentrating on my football career. But then I think in I think it was like 2011 or something like that. By accident, we went with Carlo Cudicini, my colleague, and Hilario, who was my goalkeeping colleague at Chelsea at the time. We went for a dinner, and then we ended up playing after the dinner. We ended up playing at Carlo's place, the little drum kit and the guitars from the Guitar Hero game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we had so much fun, and that was where I really realized that I'm like, what, this is actually a perfect fun for me. So this is how I kind of got into idea of buying an electronic drum kit, and then I started practicing, and then I started actually buying all the play along music, and I started watching some videos from well-known drummers about how to the different techniques, how to approach the practicing and all that, and then it was literally up to me to I had a couple of lessons, I have to say, first, because I wanted to make sure that I hold the stick the right way and that I don't waste my time doing everything and spending the time but doing it wrong. So I had a couple of lessons just to know, the grip, the sticks, how to play the bass drum, different technique, heel toe, heel up, whatever, like just to see what you can do there. And then through a couple of friends as well. I met some very good drummers in my life, and I had the courtesy of talking to them and getting some tips, and this is where it really started. So I used it mainly as a relaxation and my go-to thing to to sort of offload from the stress of the professional football.
Mm.
But I actually started really enjoying it, and as I got better and better, obviously I managed to play with jam with a couple of friends, and then suddenly they had this crazy idea to play a gig, and then suddenly it sort of took completely different dimension. And the one thing what I like when I started my YouTube channel, it was only after literally a couple of years I started playing. But what I wanted to do and show people, to say that you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be Steve Gadd or Thomas Lang or Dave Grohl or you name any top Chad Smith you mentioned. You don't have to be any of those to take take the drum kit and actually play your favorite song and express yourself behind a musical instrument, whatever instrument it is. So I wanted to show that the fun, the passion is far more important than if you played perfectly as they played, or if it sounds perfect. And to have the to show that you don't have to wait for you to be perfect to show people that you can do it. So that was kind of the first bit. But then I put one video just to to show that I play, and then everybody started saying, no, can you do another one? Can you do another one? Can you do another one? And then obviously, I started having fun with it as well. And of course, a little bit more confidence, and then you just go, it's kind of my go-to thing to when I'm free.
Well, I honestly, I wasn't sure. Obviously, when you'd started, I thought perhaps this was a childhood thing that you'd maybe put to one side. Obviously, sport takes the lead, and you'd come back to it. So 2011. So I mean, you were still kind of in the height of your career there. How did you find time to fit it in? Was it something you did regularly, or just when you could? Because obviously, there's a lot going on, a lot of traveling and training and what have you.
Well, that was actually the advantage, because when you travel the day before the games. You arrive sometimes in like a late afternoon in the hotel, and then you have like a couple of meetings, dinner, and you have time to spend. If you play Champions League, the games are played in the evening the next day. So, and as by the rules, you have to be there 24 hours prior to kickoff. Then you have on the match day, you have actually so much time to kill. So it's up to you how you use it. I always used it by learning a new language, and drumming.
Wow.
So basically, my practice pad and sticks, they never leave my bag, and they never left my bag. Even now, when I travel anywhere, if you open my bag, there are a pair of drumsticks. It goes everywhere with me, because when I have like 20 minutes, half an hour, sometimes an hour, I actually, I always have this, like snare exercise or rudiments, which I just go over, or I just put the music on and keep the rhythm with, just to keep the hands going. And I have obviously a studio at home, like a little soundproof place where, where every time I have 20-30 minutes, sometimes I have more time, then I just lock myself in, and I can always combine practicing with playing for fun, because I just feel like, if you give it the time to get better technically, then everything becomes easier. You can play more songs, you can play with more confidence, you can have more fun, and actually increases as well the creativity of that you don't always play the same fill and the same fill there. But then as well, I take time when when I travel, or I watch obviously all the I one of the learning process I used was actually Drumeo.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the guys, when they started, I bump into it on YouTube, And then actually I was like, okay, they do it really well. It's very simple. You have so many examples and you can use to a benefit. And then when they when the guys were actually moving from the old studio to the current new studio, so they had like a funding page, and I donated quite I donated some money for them to be able to actually finish the project.
Incredible.
So, and then then obviously I keep following them, and I keep I keep watching, because they have absolutely unbelievable content when you look at all the drummers they had and the lessons they have. And so I watch that as well because I enjoy it. And I have to say, one other person who really had a big influence on my way of practicing, it was Miloš Mayer, which is a Czech drummer.
Mhm.
And he's absolutely insane. I have to say, if people don't know him, they should check him out, because he has his own, apart of playing from symphonical orchestra to heavy metal bands, every genre you can imagine, with every band you can imagine. He has his own project called Drumming Syndrome,
Oh.
and that's basically like 13, 8, or 8, 10, 7-minute long drum solos played. He always have some friends who put the music together the way he wants, and then he just lays drums on top of that. And this is his project, where he basically is all about drumming, and he is absolutely brilliant. I had a couple of luckily I had a couple of lessons with him, and he actually, when he studied music and art in the university in Prague, he actually showed me the content and the books they were using for stick control and all that. So that was one. And Jamie Morrison, the drummer of Stereophonics,
Yes.
he actually gave me the stick control book, which
Right.
he uses for his practice. He'll be somewhere here in the studio, or maybe in my bag. And then he said, okay, this is when you travel and you just do a little practice part. There's plenty of ideas what to do. So these are my ways of practicing, because I try to keep the structure in a way, because nowadays you find so much content about drumming lessons, and that sometimes you almost feel like you can get lost so easily. So I tried, thanks to them, actually I can keep track of what I'm doing, what I want to do. And currently I'm using Thomas Lang's book about double bass, workouts on the double bass, because that's not something I used as much when I started. So I was like, I use it just like when you have some odd hits here and there, and quick songs, yes, but it was like I never really put a lot of work in double bass. So now I'm trying to catch up. So I use his book to try to improve that, my left foot. So yeah, so it's fun. I love it, because when there is a song I struggle to play, or I have I hit the wall, and I feel like, oh, this is really something which gives me a hard time, and I have to really put a huge effort in it. I'm always like, okay, these are the parts I want to nail. So then I put a bit of a practice in there, and it's always nice to see when you jump over that hurdle, and then you suddenly go through that little barrier, and you just go, oh yes, that's a huge satisfaction, I have to say. So that's why I enjoy it as well.
It's kind of, yeah, you see the work paying off, and as you say, it's a nice feeling. You're really into it's really got a hold of you, hasn't it? I can tell from the way you're talking.
I am actually, when I decide to do things, I like to do them like really. I invest time and energy in it, and I always want to see how far I can get. And obviously, I played a couple of gigs, and when you play that, and you suddenly have thousands of people bouncing, and you play as a guest couple of songs, but the vibe, the atmosphere, it just gets to you.
Mm.
And this is where you just go like, what, I would love to sometimes do it more often, like, but then you need to have the certain level that people actually have the confidence to say, well, you can play that song in front of a proper audience, because that's not about you do whatever and people will be happy. No, they won't. So I like to do things properly. So that's why when I play or practice, I try to do things like in a structured way that I know I'm gonna get better. And that's why I keep the rule, because drumming ultimately is about muscle memory,
Mm.
and so I always believe that playing, even if it's 20 minutes every day, it still make you improve faster than if you play 5 hours every week, like
Sure.
on Saturday, because the muscle memory just loses it. And then if you build up every day at least 20 minutes, then I believe it gets you further. So I try to keep that rule going, that every day, if I have a little bit of time, I jump into studio and I do a little bit. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And of course, when you see, like, people often ask, like, okay, this is a professional drummer, session drummer, or the top drummers, and they just tell them, yeah, but these people play probably 5, 6, 7 hours a day since they were 2, 3, 5, whatever. When you see Travis Barker, like, playing since he was like 2, he plays drums
Yeah.
probably 10 hours a day since he was 2 years old. And then you suddenly realize, well, that's why these people are so good. It's not about that one day you decide, I'm talented, I'm gonna take the drum kit and then I'm gonna be the best drummer in the world. They have to play, and whether you practice all the time or not, because I was always, when you see Dave Grohl drumming, you just think, like, it's absolutely amazing, the
Mm.
energy, the precision, the power, the melodics, and everything, the dynamics. And then you suddenly realize that he would not necessarily probably practice, but he was playing along to all sorts of music 8 hours a day. And then you realize, yeah, when you spend that much time, of course you have a good chance you become good. You need to have some sort of talent as well, that you feel the rhythm and you have the natural feel, for example. But yeah, it's all about the work. So in the end of the day,
Yeah.
I started late, but if I want to catch up, I have to put the work in.
Amazing. It's like you wouldn't put Thomas Lang in goal in a Champions League final, would you? After being a goalkeeper for 2 weeks, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You've got to earn it and do it, and but I love the fact that you're so committed to it. And you mentioned Drumeo. Jared was on the show actually a few months back. If you ever get a spare hour, it's a really fascinating conversation. We go through some bits that perhaps he hasn't spoken about before, and it's if you get a spare hour, I'll send you the link. It's really enjoyable actually. So yeah,
No, it's always, it doesn't matter if it's music and art or acting or sports, anything in the world, or if you look at somebody who is a scientist or doctor, when you see, how they reach the level of the expertise they have, or how they master whatever they do, ultimately is all, the stories are there always. It's the same kind of the same story. It's about how much work you are willing to put in, and how much time you are willing to sacrifice to become better.
Mm.
Of course, I'm not in a stage where I'm gonna play 6 hours a day, no. But as I said, I always try to get better, because first I feel better about it, and as well, I want to be able to play any song I like, or any favorite band, and I must go, okay, I want to be able to play that. So that's a kind of my motivation. Whether it will lead further to anything or not, that's always a question. But obviously, sitting through the rehearsals with Carl, for example,
Mm.
Brazil, that's where you saw the picture.
I did.
Then obviously, you see them how they approach how they prepare, how they approach the rehearsal, how they play the instrument, and you can see the dynamics and everything and this is what I love, because it's almost like you standing, when you eat in the Michelin star restaurant, and if somebody gives you the chance to be next to the chef and actually see him preparing it,
Mm.
this is what becomes fascinating. So that's always the experience like that, when you just go, okay, it's not always about speed, it's about control and dynamics, which make the song sound a certain way. And that's nice, because you can play any pattern, but if it doesn't have the feel or dynamic, then you suddenly realize, okay, it's not it doesn't sound the same.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm fascinated because obviously you've mentioned Stick Control, which is a book that I think every drummer should own if they don't. And you mentioned the Thomas Lang, the double bass drum exercises. So have you kind of taught yourself to read music then, Petter? If you can get through these things.
Well, I can read drum sheets,
Hmm.
so every drum sheet I can read, and I can it's never an issue.
Hmm.
So obviously, because as I was practicing and everything is written down, so the drum sheets I can read. I can't read any piano parts. If you ask me about it, I can play chords on the piano, but if you put like the piano chart on any song and say, okay, what is it, I'm like, I have no idea, I can't tell you, apart of to see what kind of chord is there. But if you put if I have to read that, then or guitar part, I would be lost. But I just not recognize the chords, because it's sometimes not, when you look at some certain song and then you see it there, at least gives you some sort of idea of a dynamic.
Mm.
But at the pattern of the melody, for example, so you can do that. But I would say I just literally learned to read the drum parts, the drum sheets, so I can recognize, even when I play, some of the drum covers, when I always like there are some I just make like a chart on the side
Hmm.
where it just gives me the structure of the song.
A cheat sheet, as they call it.
Kind of a cheat sheet, yes, you
Yeah.
can call it that. But sometimes I actually put the whole notation up.
Mm.
Like some of the songs where the parts are going, like it's kind of long, or there are repetitive parts which you can easily get lost. Then sometimes I just put it up, because I'm thinking like, okay, I want to record it for whatever reason. I want to do it. I won't have time, so I want to do it now. I don't have time to learn the song and remember it.
Yeah.
So I just I just print the drum sheet and put it up on the wall and literally play with it, which I learned to do that. So actually, it's a good skill that I can learn the song by remembering and just listening to it. And I can actually, if you put the sheet there in front of me and say, okay, play it, and I'm actually able to play it. So that's while reading. So that's actually a good. I learned to do that. But yeah, that's probably one skill I have, maybe on top of someone. But
Well, do you know?
but it actually helps, because it's nice to be able to understand what's going
Mm.
on.
Absolutely. And do you know, I spoke to Kenny Aronoff on, I think it was Monday. This is Thursday. It was the previous Monday. So the Kenny Aronoff one will be out when this one comes out. But he's a fanatic for writing the parts out, and he's just done 4 gigs with Sammy Hagar, with Joe Satriani on guitar, and Mike Anthony from Van Halen on bass. So he got Jason Bonham was the drummer. He had some urgent family thing he had to do, so he had 24 hours to learn and write out the whole set. And and you can imagine doing Van Halen stuff. It's not going to be, and he did it all through just writing the parts out.
I heard Matt Cameron, one of this like guys, who said that once he had to play a gig and he had pretty much one day to learn 18, like a whole set, 18 songs, whatever it was. And that was where he said, well, this is what I used to
Hmm.
to do that. And I'm just forgot who it was. But it's true that that's obviously one of the skills, is that if anybody needs you, and you are obviously, if you have the technical ability and you can learn the songs quickly, then of course that's probably what makes you being on in the high list of everybody as well. So I think that's always, when you see, and I'm always fascinated, that's why I watch all these Ramiro documents or the podcast, because you see the guys have so many topics, and one is like how quickly you can learn the song, what do you do, how do you approach it, and you see that everybody has his own thing.
Mm.
And so it's nice to know that everybody is different, that you don't have to actually use one way. You see someone doing it by listening and having the cheat sheet, or someone is just literally just counting the bars and say, okay, there's a chorus, bridge, and verse, and that's it, and they just play by whatever they remember. So it's always like fascinating that some people write it note by note, and I think it's always nice when you look at this and you see all the top drummers talking about how they approach the instrument, and you suddenly realize like everybody does it his own way,
Of course.
and in the end of the day they all do the same thing. They just are in the top band, and they are the top musician, and they are the top drummers, and that's why we all know them, and everybody watch them play, and that's what makes it fascinating, that although everybody does the same, everybody does it their own way, with their personality and their approach, and it's obviously fascinating to know that two people can play the same part and it will sound completely
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Do you know, I reading music is a great, I call it a tool. It's a tool to have. You maybe shouldn't rely on it all the time, but if you need it and you've got it and you've got the ability to do it confidently, I think it's a really powerful tool as well. Just
Yeah, I
just
think
given a piece of music and play. Amazing.
and as well, sometimes you don't have much, like in as I said, sometimes when I want to learn some drum cover and I play it a couple of times, and it's sort of the parts stay in my head, and I just go a couple of times over it, and then I take the drum part out, and then actually and then just play it, and sometimes it's fine, but
Mm.
sometimes they are like parts where you just feel like, okay, I'm messing up, because there is sometimes the structure of the song is slightly different, and then it's easy to mess up, so then you make a note. But sometimes, as I said, sometimes when I want to do it fast and I keep messing up, I just go, you know what, I just put the whole drum sheet up
Oh,
and I just play and I look up and thinking, okay, this is the section coming now, and then it becomes actually easier, because it's and one part which is really interesting as well, and I think you know it's when you go through the song, and so obviously in my case is usually the drum cover, I want to film it, so I go a couple of times. Sometimes I just go like one take and it's good at it, like I feel like it's close enough, fine. But sometimes I just go a couple of times before I start recording, and the funny thing is that a couple of times what happened to me is that I nailed it like 3 times in a row, and I had perfect idea what I want to do, and I'm thinking, you know what, this is what I'm gonna do, and I press this record button, and everything goes wrong. I mixed the parts, then suddenly I play wrong fill, and then I'm thinking like, how on earth, I did it 3 times in a row, come with complete ease, with no problem. But then when you put the record and okay, now this is what everybody's gonna see. This is where you kind of feel it's slightly different, and this is what obviously is about as well. As a top musician, you have to be able to play when everybody watch, and this is where you see the difference as well between the top ones.
absolutely, absolutely. And I'm terrible because I'm a reading drummer. I don't really do non-reading gigs, and I could do the same gig 40 times in a row, and if I haven't got that music, I am so lazy. I can't well, I can't do without the music. I don't know where it starts or stops or anything. You do, and I'm sure a few people watching or listening to this will kind of go, yeah, I know what you mean. You get into that is it lazy? I don't know. We
It's a
learn to
habit.
read. We learn
I
to
think
read for a
I think
reason, don't
I
we?
think it's a habit, and because you use it often and you
Mm.
suddenly become good at it. I think that's where unconsciously you just switch off and you go like, I have my sheet music. I'm fine. If I forget, I will find it there. and that's probably what the habit of playing it like that. It's the same, like, amazing thing is like you play any song, and obviously I don't sing. Yeah, so one thing I can't, yelling at my teammates for 20 years on the pitch with so many people, you ruin your voice. And so I can't sing. My voice got hammered by by playing, like, yelling at them for too long. So, but sometimes, when I play on my own and with the songs I like, I just sing along, and it's quite amazing to realize that, once while you play drums, then you start singing, and then you forget that you forget about what you're playing. So it's another skill. And I actually asked Roger Taylor about it, because I said to him, I said, Roger, you sing quite a bit while you're playing, or sometimes you actually, when he has his I'm in love with my car song,
Hmm.
which is entirely his song,
Yes.
playing drums and singing about it, about the car. So it's basically he sings a whole song. And so I told him, I said, I just for fun tried to sing along with a couple of with couple of songs, and I said I got lost. And he actually told me, he was the first one who said it's basically like the same. When you learn to play the pattern, you learn to play it with singing with it. So it's again about getting the practice in. And it was another fascinating moment for me. I played either I did for BBC a little session with Roger at his studio,
Ah,
and like watching him play. Oh, that was obviously something special as well.
wow. So can we expect some maybe Don Henley or Phil Collins drum covers coming up where you sing as well? Maybe. No,
No, you
that's a
know
no.
what? I have to say, there's a Czech drummer called David Koller, and he used to be the frontman of the band.
Mm,
So he would literally play drums and sing whole set
mm, wow.
while playing the drums. So that was what he did. And obviously there were songs where he didn't. There were a couple of songs where he didn't need to play drums, so he just came in the front of the stage. But otherwise, 3/4 of the gig he was singing. He was the main singer and the drummer of the band. So it was the first time when I actually saw it, and I'm thinking, wow, this is actually something, because it was in the 90s. They were their band was, or his band was, the biggest band in Czech Republic
Oh wow.
at the time. And I think it was actually the first live gig I ever went to, was them. And yeah, so it was, I think, in 96 or 7, something like that, I would say.
So
So that was where as well, I realized that I basically, throughout the whole concert, was kind of like a first big date. I went with my wife, now my wife,
yeah,
and
sure.
then and then so you're 17. And then but I only paid really attention to the drum parts, to
Mm.
her and the drum parts. So if you so
Glad you added that.
that was the no, it was obvious, but the drum part. So this is where I really realized, I always kind of listen to the rhythms, and I was always tapping, when there's any song. Back then it was always, MTV was always on, so you kind of, and then actually there was her who in the end, when I bought the electronic drum kit,
Mm.
my family came over, and my sister asked me to play. I don't remember what song it was now. I would lie, because I don't remember what it was, but it was, I think it was a System of a Down or something like that, like a really fast song. And she, it might have been actually Chop Suey. I'm not sure, but
Oh, okay.
and she said, "Oh, can you play that?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. Like, for me, this is way too quick. So I don't have the coordination, and so so I couldn't play it." And it was actually my wife who said to me, like, "Why don't you do a couple of lessons that you will actually have more fun if you can play everything. And it was obviously in 2011 where my kids were 2 and 3 years old. And I said to her, I said, well, I'm playing professional sport. I'm not always at home. And if I now start, like drumming, and she obviously had a good point, because she said, well, if you play golf, you disappear for half a day. So if you go for a drum lesson, which lasts 1 or 2 hours, then actually, it's only an hour. And the next day I had the lesson. So that was actually her who actually kind of opened my eyes and said, well, try it and you'll see how it feels. And then now we always laugh about it, because she always tells me, like, you should have played piano or keyboard or something, not banging drums. It just makes big noise. But I don't think I have. For me, the drums are perfect instrument for me. So I feel, because I need to, because it's physical, it's loud, it's important, and it gives that rhythm and life to every song. And that's what I love about it. And it's almost like, when it's like a goalkeeper and drummer is pretty much the same thing in a band and in the team. Because if the drums, if you make a mistake, everybody notices.
Yes, that's a great analogy.
And that's what happens in football too. So it's a kind of the same thing. You sort of hold things together. If you mess up, like, the guitar part, probably nobody noticed, only the people who really can play. But the drums, like, if suddenly there's a wrong beat and a wrong time, you exactly know that something's not right. So
plus you're at the back and you can see everybody. There's a few comparisons, isn't there? Never thought about that.
It is actually. I have to say, that's probably why I sort of inclined to that. It kind of suits me. I really feel it's something I enjoyed. And the one thing which I always got asked, and as well, like, related to football, is that the limb independence you get from playing drums is absolutely on a different level. Yeah, so basically it helped me even in terms of the hand-eye coordination and in my playing in goal, because obviously you get to use 4 limbs with 4 different patterns, and you have to know how to dissociate and put everything together. So sometimes in a game you have a deflected shot, so one movement, like, your limbs are going different ways, and actually I have to say that faster your brain picks it up, more chance that you save it you have. And actually drumming teaches you that there is a proper limb independence wherever you look. Any pattern you play, literally, only if you keep it simple and you play like quarter note on the hi-hat constantly, then that's one pattern. Obviously snare plays other pattern, and if you add some ghost notes, it's a completely different pattern. And obviously a hi-hat plays its own pattern, and bass drum plays its own pattern. So you suddenly multifunction, and it opens up another hand-eye coordination option. So I think I benefited through from drumming. I benefited even for my job, which was quite good as well, that you sort of do something which you enjoy, but it actually work in a different area as well.
That's really fascinating. You just don't think of things like that, but now you just said it, you kind of go, yeah, I see.
When you play drums since you are a kid, and so you kind of know this is a part of drumming and that's it. But if you don't do it and you do other things, and then suddenly you combine them, you suddenly realize, like, oh yeah, it's actually all about muscle memory and repetition and precision, and then obviously multifunctioning. So I think it obviously makes your brain work faster and make decision faster, and be able to dissociate and putting patterns together. So it's a skill. Even if you play a odd time signature, is a skill. I'm not really good at it, and I don't know why, but I never do it enough. You always play kind of like the obvious,
Of course.
5/4 and 7/8, and then you have the triplets, and then the 4/4, 3/4, whatever. It's kind of like you always 16 notes. That's the patterns you use the most. So when it comes to like a really, I don't know, I once watched Tool drummer Jamie Curry
Yeah.
play a couple of songs, and I got confused after like I started. I've never seen the drum sheet music for that, so obviously I tried to figure out what kind of the time signature is it, and I had a headache after 2 minutes because I was like, oh, okay, it might be. Then I'm thinking, oh no, and then obviously I was curious, so I searched it up, and then I realized all the variations of the odd time signatures, flying through one song, and I'm like, okay, that's not something I'm good at. So
Well, that's almost when it becomes sport because it's kind of just like, you know, uh I don't know, technical prowess and I'm not a huge fan of odd times. They have their place. I'm not very good at them. I don't ever have to play them really, and if I do, they're generally written out and I can work through them. But Danny Carey is a whole other, yeah,
yeah,
craziness.
even Neil Peart was the same.
Mm.
Some of the songs, but because they are so melodical, you can kind of almost like remember the melody and actually play it without really counting, as long as you stay on the first beat to start the next section, then it works. But no, as I said, when I see sometimes people, all of Dream Theater and all these bands who have like the whole sections of absolutely crazy like odd time signatures, you just go, I just look and I'm thinking, okay, so I'm passing that drum cover. It's never gonna be me. This is not me. This is
Well,
way too much work.
is your well? I was just going to say a good one, a good fun one is "Spirit of Radio" by Rush. I don't know if you've ever tried that one, but it's a real gem of a song. It takes a bit of work, but if
It takes work, concentration, and the technique, and sometimes when you are overloaded, you know it doesn't sound good. I tried a couple of Rush songs, which I managed to go through them, but I'm like, I'm not.
was Tom Sawyer one by any chance?
He was definitely
Yeah.
Tom Sawyer is always the one you try, and then you play 3/4 of it, and you think, oh, actually today it feels kind of good, and then everything falls apart, and you just go, well, here we go again. So no, but it's crazy because as I said, it's fascinating to see different drummers doing different things, and yet being on top of their profession
Mm.
and really masters of their instruments, and it's that's what is fascinating about it, because as I said, in a way you could think like if two people do the same, it should be the same. It's never the same with drummers. You
That's
can
good.
do
It's
you
a good
can,
thing.
and I think that's what makes the song actually a song.
Mm.
And I remember, and I think in one of the YouTube documentaries, I think Bono was talking about, or actually one of them was talking about Larry Mullen's drumming, and he said, well, that when they prepared one of the I think on the Joshua Tree, I think was one of the songs, they kind of played it on, put it on drum machine, just they have kind of like a section, and he said, well, in the end of the day, that Larry plays the same, it's the same pattern. But
Mm.
they said, well, but the song is like completely came alive because of the dynamics and different hits here and there and there. And he said it completely elevated the whole song completely to different dimensions. So it just shows that, that human, the feel and the human touch is actually so important in the,
Yeah.
unless you play, obviously, unless you go to electronic techno music where obviously it just goes,
Mm.
and but that's the style, that's how it should sound,
Of
so
course.
that's obviously that's obviously why it sounds like that. But I love to see the like I went recently to Blink 182
Mm.
gig in Belfast, and it was amazing that you can see that like the energy and the speed and the power and the fun, it comes out from Travis Barker's playing. You just go, well, that's fun to watch, because you basically end up watching the drummer more than
Yeah.
than anything else from the gig, even for people who are not there for the drumming
Oh
really.
yeah.
and
You're drawn to
they
him.
just go like, wow, you know. And then obviously, you know, they know as well, so it's great that he's always on one of the screens that you can actually see what's happening there behind the drum kit. And this is obviously fun to watch as well, that the songs like live are played different ways than, you know, this. It sounds like the album, but there are parts here and there where it's, you know, there are some things added and changed a little bit. I think, guess it's for the fun of playing it live as well. So it's you know, it's always nice to watch that. And now I obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning, I was or my sister started. We were huge fans of Nirvana, so everything Dave Grohl does, obviously, we were like following him as well. After Nirvana to Foo Fighters, obviously, I went to a couple of 3 or 4 gigs now to see when they were in London, and that's obviously, it was great to, you know, to see Taylor Hawkins drumming from close. So that's something, you know, I'm always intrigued to watch different drummers playing.
Absolutely. And is your YouTube channel, would you say that's kind of a little snapshot into your musical taste, or are these just songs that you like to play?
Well, at the beginning was more like I think you always start in a way, you know, the genre of music you listen to. But
Mm.
I have to say, like when people ask me my range, you know, I don't really go with genre,
Mhm.
which is what, like, as my playlist goes from obviously like from Coldplay, U2 to System of a Down, or Metallica, or like even uh, like Seventh Sevenfold. I have songs like that as well.
Joe
You know,
Bonamassa.
I have everything. I go from like complete, you know, top to bottom of the spectrum of the music, because I listen to rap, I listen R&B. I either like the song or I don't. So I don't particularly look at what sort of genre it is, or if I like it, you know, I can actually listen to country music, and I have no problem with that, because some of the country music, if you go to Nashville or places like that, is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So you just, you know, I don't really have, you know, I'm more like a rock person. You know, I enjoyed it like a classic rock, you know, like I would say like Queen and Foo Fighters, and you know, like like bands like that. That's something, you know, I love to listen to. But as I said, you know, on my playlist there's pretty much everything, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I said, and you know, there are so many bands, and I listen pretty much to everything, and that's what you know, when I started, I was like, okay, I learned to play the songs of the bands I enjoy listening to.
Mhm.
Then I realized that some of the songs I can't play because I'm not technically well prepared. And this is where I started practicing, and sort of then I realized, okay, now I can play that. Okay, I put some Foo Fighters song in there, and obviously nowadays the most of the songs now, or whatever, if I do a drum cover, I pretty much put it on my Instagram, because obviously that's the medium now.
Of
Everybody is
course.
more watching
Yeah.
than that. But I have to. I was actually saying to myself the other day, I was thinking, oh, I should still put it, because there's about 3 4 drum covers I did on my Instagram. I didn't put them on YouTube,
Oh, yeah, of course.
so I'm gonna upload them, because I'm thinking like it's a shame, you know, it should that just to update for people who follow
Absolutely.
that on
Yeah.
that YouTube channel. So
Well, I have to ask one thing, because I said 45 minutes and we're over that. As always, we're over it straight away. It seems like 5 minutes. Um, how does the thrill of playing drums, say in a gig, compare to, playing I don't know, a Premier League football game or a final? Is the thrill similar?
no, it's different,
Hmm.
and I have to say I always, when people ask, so I describe it like, obviously the tension you have before you go on stage, it's the same,
Hmm.
because you know there are people, everybody's watching, and if you play you know, the gig is as important for the band as for the team when you go to play a game. Yeah. So the kind of the pre-gig or pre-match tension, you feel it. Well, maybe not everybody, but I certainly feel. I feel more stressed playing drums because it's something I don't do as long as I used to play football.
Of course.
So, you know, so that's something when I go like, okay, there's a lot of people, just make sure you remember everything, and that you know it's fine. And when you play any match in football, you know, when it's 0-0 and you play a team where people kind of expect you to win. So when you have like 20, 30 minutes where you don't really find your rhythm and there are not big chances and there is not much happening and you don't score, the atmosphere is sort of kind of like not on the high level of the spectrum of the noise and everything, because you need to bring the people into it. So, but then the moment you score and everybody goes, it's kind of erupts, and this is where you can feel the energy from the crowd. Or when you are losing or you score like a last minute winner, obviously everything goes crazy. But that's what happens with the gig, with the first note.
Mm.
Because and that's what you kind of feel. The difference is that if you really start well and the band keeps going and whole gigs goes well, then basically you have the 80 minute or whatever how long you play of kind of the atmosphere after scoring a winning goal. So actually the gig has a better vibe in a way,
Wow.
because of the crowd. The crowd is more like from the first second to the last, they are, you know, bouncing. And of course, if something goes wrong, maybe not, but most of the time that happens, that people are in it and they enjoy it, and they dance and they join, and that's obviously the brilliant part. But the thing with football is something you have to bring the people there. And if you play a big final like a Champions League final, even the fans are stressed. Like everybody is so nervous. So the atmosphere kind of builds up. So that's what makes the like for me when I play the game, I'm like, you know what, this is actually fun, because the people are here from the first second. Actually, the moment you hit the first note, everything goes, and that's what what I enjoyed.
Well, I tell you what, Petr, thank you so much. You've given us a fascinating insight into your drumming life, and I can't thank you enough for giving up your time. I know you're incredibly busy, so um, I've really enjoyed. I hope you've enjoyed it as well.
I
It's
enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me as well, being in that company of these great drummers you interviewed before. I'm kind of like, I'm really thrilled and honored to be here. So yeah,
well,
thank you very much.
it's a pleasure to have you, and you know, hopefully, who knows, we might get to see you playing in a band somewhere on tour at some point. You never know.
Well, you never know. You never know. But let's see. Let's see what happens.
Great.
As long as I enjoy it, that's the main part for me, is
Hey,
that music gives me energy, and I love it. So that's why I'm playing the drums.
keep doing what you do, I say. Thanks so much, Petr, and I will hopefully see you again at some point. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye. Bye bye.